I'm Tracy Osborne, and you're listening to the Daring Woman podcast. Imagine the story of a generation being altered by women who were empowered to live their truth and in turn can empower others to live theirs. It's time to rewrite the narrative. So I think one of the scariest things for women to face, to think about, to worry about is the fear of breast cancer, because it is so there in our faces all the time, and it is such a high risk cancer, a high risk disease for us to get. And I know me personally, I've had a couple of scares. Knock on wood, they haven't turned into anything, but it's still that fear. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Do I have to do I have to cut off the girls? What am I going to do? How am I going to? And I can't imagine what it would actually feel like getting that talking to from the doctor, or that phone call from the doctor that says, yeah, you've got it. My guest today is Nikki Speer. And while she hasn't actually had it herself, I believe, it is in her family, and she took drastic measures to ensure that it doesn't happen to her. So Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Tracy.
I'm excited to have you here. And this is such an important topic on so many levels, because it is such a rampant disease among women.
Yes.
So why don't you start off, tell us a little bit about your story, and, we'll just kind of go from there.
Sure, I'd love to. So I am the daughter of a thriver, is what I would have called her many years ago when she was diagnosed in 2006. And my mom, Virginia, was diagnosed with breast cancer, but this would not be the first time we heard breast cancer in our family. One of my mom's sisters was diagnosed as well about 26 years ago now. And then my mom's youngest sister was diagnosed, and then my grandmother was diagnosed with breast cancer. So there was a lot of talk, yes, ma'am, a lot of talk of breast cancer in our family. So when my mom shared with me in 2006 that she had breast cancer, it was shocking and heartbreaking, only because it was my mama. She was always there for me. She helped with the children. She lived right down the street. She had taken care of my grandmother, and she was a stem cell donor for my Aunt Catherine, who was also diagnosed with breast cancer. And so just a lot of talk of this. And there was a lot of, women that I loved losing hair and chemotherapy and having surgeries. And so it was just a very scary, scary time. And I think that's when a lot of things started for me, when I started asking questions about my own self, my own breasts, my own health. And when I was 31 years old, 8.5 years ago, I chose to have a preventative mastectomy. So I had both breasts removed with reconstruction, and it was a hard time. I had 3 children, and I wasn't able to move my arms. And a part of me was gone. A real, I guess, part of me was gone. And so I felt that piece of me, like, am I beautiful anymore? Am I really real? I suffered from some depression. I think a lot of real body image issues started to play out in that. And I realized that if I'm struggling with this and I don't have breast cancer, that the women that I know and love, and women all around the world, must really be battling with this and need that encouragement. At that time, it just didn't seem like it was right to maybe start a business. Didn't really think about that. I just knew I wanted to be of encouragement for other people. Fast forward to 2015, October of 2015, I had already lost my grandmother and had already lost my Aunt Catherine in the previous years. My Aunt Sue had a lumpectomy, and those 25 years prior, and she is absolutely a thriver at this point in our family and our life. But in October 2015, my mom had battled for so many years, so many surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation, and she finally told me that she had decided she was no longer going to go through any of the treatments. There was actually nothing more they could do for her. She actually is what had METS, which is metastatic breast cancer, stage 4. And as we know of it right now, there is much research happening because of women that are rallying for women like my mom for the research that we can find a cure for this particular cancer. But for my mom, that was not the case. She had tried every chemotherapy, and October 2015, it was finished. We did like every mom and daughter sometimes like to do, and my mom said, you know what, I'm not going to let this affect me. I'm going to live my life to the fullest, the time that the Lord gives to me, and so let's go shopping. At this point, I no longer lived in New York, right down the street from her. I lived in North Carolina, so I took a flight to New York, and we went to the mall and out to lunch, and that day I made a promise to my mom. And the promise was to design clothing for her, because we found nothing at the mall that made my mom feel like a woman. At this point, she had large arms from lymphedema. She had a large belly from all the chemotherapy. She had no hair, and she had no breasts. I knew I had to make a difference for my mom.
Right.
What I didn't know is that 77 days later, my mom would pass away. She would never fully see the dream and the words that I spoke, but hundreds of other women have, and I believe thousands will eventually see this dream that I have developed, which is actually a post-op shirt for women coming out of any surgery, any breast surgery that you would have drains for. So I've designed this shirt that helps place the drains in the inside pockets, and it's buttoned up for limited mobility, and it can also be long sleeve or short sleeve. It's soft cotton, easily washable.
Wow.
And I believe this is just one step towards that promise I made to my mom, but also to help women feel that they're loved and beautiful. And the shirt is named Hope, because I believe that there is hope in the midst of this diagnosis.
I absolutely love that. I'm trying not to cry right now.
Me too.
Yeah, totally not even close to the same, but my dad passed away in October of 2008 with metastasized. Thank you.
Yes.
Metastasized.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
And and so he was the same. He fought the brave fight for years, and then and he was like, I'm tired. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like your mom. And I think that maybe she hasn't been able to physically see your dream come to fruition, but I think she's been able to help and do more where she is now than she would have been had she still been alive.
Sure.
There's so much energy and love that she can pour into your mission now from where she's at. Yeah,
I think her spirit of go after itness, or whatever that word might be.
Yeah.
And her faith and her strength. I believe I'm her daughter, so I believe that we have a lot of that in our family, and I'm proud to say that. I think we all face hard things. I mean, this is the reality of the life that we live, and we are not, promised to have this easy peasy life, but I think it is what we do with the hard that makes it maybe a little bit easier for the next person we come in contact with. And that's just what I hope our foundation, which is Redefining Courage, does for women. It just gives a little glimpse of hope and love, saying that you're important. We know what you're walking through, and we're here with a simple gift that says we care for you in this moment in time.
I love it. Now, you made the decision to go ahead and have the double mastectomy, even though you didn't have breast cancer. And, given your family history, I think I probably would have made that decision too. But, how hard of a choice was it? Because I think, number one, it's just a big part of our body to have our breasts removed, but it's also society places so much emphasis on them, and, breasts equating feminine. So how difficult was that decision? I mean, were you, I know you mentioned depression and body image. So, how did you really decide to go through that?
I definitely think watching my aunts go through breast cancer and how gracefully they did that, each making different choices with their own bodies. Also, my mom's one of my other mom's sisters had a preventative mastectomy right before I chose to as well. So talking through some of that, but yeah, I mean, it was a hard decision. I mean, it wasn't just mine. I had 3 children I knew that I wanted to be here for. I had have a husband. And so, yeah, talking and praying through that, writing down, I think in our family, we always try to write down pros and cons of any big decision we might be making. So doing that, just kind of putting it on paper in front of me, saying what are the good and the bad of this decision. So yeah, I think the decision was pretty difficult. A lot of doctor's appointments, yeah, it was a hard decision, but I think the real hard came afterwards, which is living with the decision that you've made.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely think that it's, everybody's body and everybody's situation is different. But I think for me, once I made it, I knew I feel like I made the right decision, and I actually still feel like I made the right decision, regardless of what happened after or what happens in the future. I really do believe that I made the right choice, because now I'm actually in a space where I can speak to the women that reach out to me that are previvors, is what we are called. And I have something to share, and I have a story to share, and I'm in that space with them, and I've experienced what they're experiencing. So it gives me, I guess you would say, a little bit more clout. I'm not just a woman speaking about this, but I'm also a woman that is living it and has lived through it. So yes.
And that makes a huge difference. I mean, I can sit here and talk about breast cancer all day long, but the fact is I haven't walked that walk. So I can't sit here and say, oh, I know what you're going through, or I know what you went through, because I don't have a clue one.
Right.
I can imagine how I would feel and what emotions I would feel. But the truth is, unless I actually walk through that fire, I wouldn't have a clue. And
right.
So, the fact that you have been there, even as a previvor, and then going through it with your family members as they went through their journeys, it does give you that clout, or that that oomph where you can say, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
Yes.
So it's we're glad to have women like you out there who are being the cheerleaders for those who are going through this, because I like I said, I can't even imagine how difficult it is. I see people posting on social media and all of that about their journeys, but that's just words and a couple of pictures. We can't really truly understand.
Yeah, the depth of it. Right.
Yeah. The hair loss and the, like you said, the body image. I know when I had my scares, I would look at my husband and I'd be like, are you still going to love me if I have to cut off my boobs? And he would just look at me like, are you insane? Shut up.
Right. But sometimes it does, unfortunately, sometimes it does happen. And to have men like that and to talk it through, I mean, it's kind of a hard conversation, and to really talk that through and you need that bounce back, and that how do you feel about it kind of thing.
Right.
But I want to say to you too, thank you. Sometimes people don't want to talk about it. Sometimes people have reached out to me and asked me to speak, and then when I share my story, they say that's just too sad, and that's just unfortunate. But I appreciate you wanting just to even speak about this. Yes, it is very sad, but we are we are here. And so talking it through and, sharing the hope side of it, and seeing me now, 3 years later, losing my mom and women that I love, but being able to speak life and hope into others. I think there's joy in that. And I think that there's, it's good. So thank you, Tracy, for just allowing me to share and
absolutely
speak to your listeners, because I think it's important to also share that piece of it as well, and know that there's women out there that support us, even if they haven't experienced it. So thank you.
Yeah. And there's a lot of women out there who support it, who haven't walked it. And
that's right.
And I can speak for me personally. I have a lot of pink stuff, with the breast cancer ribbon, and I'm always buying stuff like that, because it is such a huge, important cause, and it does affect so many. And just because it hasn't affected me directly, it's right. It affects you indirectly, friends, family, and so it's one of those topics that you can't be afraid to talk about. Right. Because it really is a life or death situation, and I know that for me, if it came down to it, okay, I could either keep the boobs and risk dying, or lose the boobs and be safe. I'd be like, bye girls, been good knowing you,
Right.
What tattoos am I going to get there now? Because I see the there's a lot of tattoo artists nowadays who do the nipple tattoos, or they will do, just free tattoos for breast cancer survivors and that kind of thing. And I've seen those pictures and stuff, and I'm like, if that were ever to happen to me, that is definitely a direction I would go. I would put some beautiful artwork right there.
Sure, absolutely.
But, we have to stop being afraid to talk about these sensitive subjects, because they're not going to go away. That's and right. It's better to be informed, whether it's something that you're dealing with or not. The more informed you are, who knows who's listening to this today that could either get that phone call tomorrow, or have a friend or a family member get that phone call. And now that they've listened to us, they have a idea of, where to go and who to turn to, and that it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to have your feelings and to, experience those feelings.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your journey, because I know that's not difficult, or not difficult. That's difficult to talk about. Sure. And it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of courage just to make that decision that you did to prevent anything from happening. Yes. So, kudos to you for that, and Thank for creating your shirts to help out with those others who definitely need it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you.
So for those who are listening, Nikki, I would like you, if you could, just give them some advice, if they're going through the journey, they've been through the journey, no matter where they're at with this, for those down days, especially the bad body image, I'm losing my hair, I've lost my hair, I now have a flat chest and I look weird. What do they do? How do they get through those days?
Well, I would just say, just know that, God created you so beautifully. And unfortunately, this terrible thing has happened to you, but it doesn't take away the beauty that you have inside. You're so much more. We all are so much more than our outsides, than our breasts, than our hair, than our eyebrows, and our eyelashes. And I know that's really hard if you look on social media. So I would say to you, write a list of all the things about yourself you love. Put them on your mirror, or even get that erasable marker. And sometimes I do this on my mirror, and I just write things about myself that I love. And I would just encourage you to do that, because maybe the world is saying, well, do this to make your eyelashes longer, and do this so you have this beautiful long flowy hair, and wear these clothes, and drink this thing or do this thing to be beautiful. And I just want to tell you, no, you are beautiful right in this moment, with or without hair, with or without eyebrows or eyelashes. You are a beautiful being because you make people smile. And you are an encourager, and your laughter makes other people laugh, and your love for your children or your husband or your family, or the way you cook, or whatever that thing is that you've been gifted, you do it so well. And so don't allow the world to dictate who you are because of a moment in time. Just know that you are beautiful, and write that down. Write down those things, and let it be in front of you, not social media, but your own personal life and what that is about you that makes you so special.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And we will definitely talk to you next week on the next show.